Is Alaska one of your dream destinations? Well, today I'm planning our Alaska trip of 2019. This is not an in-depth tutorial on how to plan a trip like a trip to Alaska. But what this is me sharing with you the things that we've been doing in the last several weeks in order to get ready for our Alaska trip, and hopefully some of these will help you. If you want to know how to plan an epic trip, then I suggest you head over to A Stream in Life, Courtney and Steve, where they've created a course on how to plan a trip. Probably a couple of years ago, I learned how to use Google Maps properly by watching a YouTube tutorial that Courtney had done. And in their course, they have it's much more in depth. I purchased it because I want to support them, but also to get a better idea of how to more fully use the Google Maps app on all of our devices. And I'll show you a little tutorial about that at the end of this video. I had commented earlier that we were going to Alaska, and a number of you have reached out and given me some great tips and ideas. And this is a particular shout out to Tim Smith. He actually sent me his itinerary from a trip that he did, and I will post that if I get permission from him. I'll post that online so you can see his itinerary, and that was helpful. He also recommended several books. Now, I had watched lots of the videos from last year's YouTubers who went, like Keep Your Daydreams and Less Junk, More Journey, and they had great tips as well. And in fact, Keep Your Daydreams recommended the same books that Tim had recommended. The first one, of course, is Milepost, and most people are familiar with Milepost because it gives you basically a mile by mile heads up on everything that you can expect, where you can get gasoline and food and camping and all of that sort of thing. And in that Milepost book, you get a kind of a poster-sized map of Alaska, although I'm going to go down to AAA later and get some of their maps and other helpful information. The other book that was recommended was Alaska Highway. And this is a nice book because, well, it's got beautiful pictures. You can actually get this as a Kindle, but because of the beautiful color photographs, I went ahead and bought the book. And in the beginning of this book, they talk about some of the planning things that you need to know, food and, how to pack and your clothing and that sort of thing. So you may find this book very helpful for that. And then the other one is Alaskan Camping, or the Traveler's Guide to Alaskan Camping. And I've only just kind of started to look at this book. So those are the three resources that I will be relying on. The other thing, as far as packing is concerned, another kind of a shout out to another YouTuber, the Wendlands, on their, they changed the name of their website, but I'll put it on the screen. And so Mike and Jennifer have this really wonderful checklist, and you can go to their website and download this. But what we're going to do is take this list that they've created, and we're going to expand upon it, because we are constantly going out on a trip and then forgetting something. We'll get 2 miles from home and go, oh, forgot the key to the bike, things like that. So we're going to have a very detailed checklist for our own needs, and go through that before we leave on this trip. Of course, one of the things you want to make sure you have is a reliable vehicle. And of course, our vehicle's pretty new. It's a 2018 Pleasure Way, but we got it in 2017. So we are not quite at 20,000 miles on it. The chassis on the Mercedes, or not the chassis, but the Mercedes says you need to bring it in for 20,000 miles service for the oil change and all the typical things they do on a new vehicle. But we have our oil changed every 10,000 miles, and we will probably continue to do that. So that's a service that will be coming up before we leave for Alaska. In preparation for our trip, we had upgrades done to our suspension with Agile Off-Road Suspension Kit, and we also had them change all the tires, so we have a more rugged tire for the journey, and also it's a slightly wider tire, and it's also slightly larger. And we also then bought a full-size, a fifth tire to use as a spare. The Pleasure Way does not come with a spare tire, which to me has always seemed rather strange. They want you to call a tow truck driver and deal with it that way because the vehicle is heavy. They don't want you changing tires, blah, blah, blah. But that is, I just don't think that's good enough for a trip to Alaska. So we purchased the full-size spare, which we will put into our hitch rack for our traveling. And that, of course, means we will not be taking anything else. There'll be no bicycles and no extra box for storage. But we created a little bit more storage in the van this past weekend, which I will show you on an upcoming video. We will be going through and selecting a few more tools in addition to the ones we normally take because who knows what we'll run into. We did also purchase from Agile Off-Road a beefier spare tire jack. Agile Off-Road makes an adapter that goes on this jack that sits, I guess, more securely underneath the chassis. So that's on order, and we'll be getting that soon, I hope. Some of you may remember that we had the windshield broken on our vehicle maybe 6 months or so ago, and that was quite a costly fix. It was like $800 or something. It was quite expensive. I don't know if it was $800. Anyway, it was very expensive. And our deductible was $1,000. So John has an email out to our insurance carrier to lower the deductible to $0 on our vehicle, at least for this trip. Or, maybe we'll just keep it there because we do travel a lot. Of course, clothing on a trip like this is going to be, a little bit different. We don't usually run into as much rain as is expected in Alaska. And so we have started to buy clothing to prepare for that. One of the things I purchased, I know that on the Keep Your Daydreams, Trisha was walking around in boots that a lot of Alaskans wear. I believe that brand was Extra Tough. So I did not want a boot that came up so high on the leg. So I bought these from Extra Tough. They're kind of more of an ankle style, a booty kind of style boot. And I've been wearing them around the house to make sure that they're really comfortable. I'll put a link below if if something like that interests you. They're used a lot on boats as well. So we figure, I can wear them on the beach walking. I can wear them on a boat because I'm sure we'll go out in some kind of a boat adventure, if not just the ferry. And hopefully those will come in nice and handy. Now, we have not needed rain pants since our cycling days over in Scotland where you get rain basically every day. But I just purchased a pair from Patagonia, and I like them especially because they have a zip. So the zipper goes all the way up almost to the knee, which makes it easy to get them on and off over boots. Wow, I think the smoke detector just chirped. So those, I'm sure, will get lots of use. Now, I will probably, before we leave on this trip, I'll probably lay everything out for you, and you can see all the stuff that we're taking, if that interests you. In regards to the actual planning of this trip, I've never driven to Alaska before. I don't know you can see how many miles it is to get from one place to the next, but that doesn't really tell you. It doesn't really help you in figuring out, that you might want longer, you want more time here. Okay, now it really is chirping. I gotta go check the battery on the smoke detector. Okay, crisis averted. Batteries replaced. Now if I can remember where I was, I think I was talking about the calendar. So what I did was I took a large Post-it note. They make these poster-sized Post-it notes, and created a large calendar. I'll insert a picture of that. And I need to add one more month, though. I've only done June and July. And then as we make reservations or we have things that we want to do on a particular date, then we put another Post-it note on top of that. So we have kind of a visual, and that way both of us can kind of see what's going on, so we don't, mess up the plans. On the side, I've put Post-it notes of things that somebody might recommend to me. So if someone recommends a book or a place we need to stop, I'm just tacking those to the side. And then when everything is all done, we're ready to hit the road, I'll kind of compile a whole list of all those things all in one spot. I've also added to that, along the way over the last year or so, we've met people who live in Alaska and have offered, a place to mooch dock or, come by for a visit or whatever. And so I'm putting all those names on along the paper as well. The first thing we booked is the Denali National Park part, because we know it books up quickly. We were not able to get reservations in that one campground that's way inside the park, but we did get the one that was at the entrance, and we booked for 4 nights. Tim Smith says there's lots of things to do in that area, and so we wanted to have ample time to do that. We also booked one of the tours that's offered into the park. And then other than that, as far as campsites, we've only booked one other campground, and that's down in Skagway, because we decided to take the ferry, the Inland Passage ferry from Skagway to Prince Rupert. Now, when I had initially considered doing a ferry, I was thinking about, from like somewhere like Skagway to Vancouver or something. But it was so expensive, and I thought, oh, this is going to be just, we're not going to be able to do that. But then I looked at the Skagway to Prince Rupert, and it was much more reasonably priced. So we booked that Inland Passage ferry. It's a 2-night. There are 2 nights we have in a berth, and the total cost for 2 seniors, the berth and our vehicle, is $1,157. Now, the state of Alaska has recently announced that they're not going to be subsidizing, or they're cutting back on the subsidy of that marine highway. And so the prices, we've already seen the prices seem to have shifted a little bit just between today and 2 weeks ago when we booked our reservation. So you may see some creeping up in the prices for that. And then the other interesting thing is that if you are 20 feet, the price for the vehicle, I think, was around it was $538, something like that. But if you are 21 feet, it jumps to like $850. And then a 25-foot vehicle is $959. Now, when we have the swing hitch, the Wilco swing hitch on our vehicle, that makes us longer than 20 feet. And then, of course, if you throw on the spare tire, then that makes it even longer. So we have decided that the night before, we will remove the swing hitch and the spare tire and put those inside the vehicle. Now, you cannot have propane on in a ferry, so the propane will be off, which means that the refrigerator will not stay cold. We will be taking a small ice chest, but we will try to use up any refrigerated food before the ferry ride, and then we will put anything essential into the little ice chest that we will carry with us. The other thing that we did book in Skagway was there's a train ride that you can take, and it was a little bit pricey, but this is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience for us, although I'd love to go back again to Alaska. So we booked that as well. And the rest of the trip, we will probably just kind of go with the flow. Our favorite trips are those that are not booked ahead of time, so we really, just kind of finding our way as we go. We like that the best. We definitely want to go to the Laird Hot Spring. We will do that, but if it means we have to, sleep outside of that facility, we'll do that. And apparently there's ample parking. You pay the fee, but there's ample parking, so that shouldn't be an issue. That's how I planned out kind of the itinerary sort of thing. It's a very loose itinerary, although I have started to create a list of places we definitely want to go, and I've added those to a Google map. And that's where I'm going to jump over to the computer now and show you how I've been putting those on the map. And that is that's a result really of what I learned from Courtney at A Stream in Life. Everybody knows about Google Maps. And if you go here to Google Maps, that's what you typically see when you want to get directions someplace. But if you hit these 3 lines here up in the upper left-hand corner, and you come down to what's called Your Places. I think this is a terrible name for this. You go to Your Places and you go over to Maps. These are maps that I've created over the last year from traveling and genealogy research that I've done, things like that. I have Alaska here at the top. And then you want to open it in My Maps. And this is where you add points where you might want to stop. Maybe they're campgrounds. You can label them whatever you want. And what I've done just initially is to start the trip down here in Huntington Beach and then put in places where we know we're going to stop. We're going to see the grandkids, visiting family and friends and things like that. And then as you think of a spot and you need to move it into line, you just click and hold, and then you can move this item up or down in the list to meet your traveling needs. And then over here, let's say you want to add a stop. So you would type in something like, let's say, Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. Click on Crater Lake, and it pops up with you can see the green here. And you can add this to the map. You'd click Add to Map. It turns it blue. And then you can label it. You can make it a different color. You can put a tent on there, whatever you want to give yourself an idea of what that indicates. And then, of course, you can also write notes and things like that in here. So here's the note editor, and you can add notes. This was recommended by so-and-so, something like that. Now, I don't want to save that. We did Crater Lake last year, so I'm going to put it in the trash. Whoops. There we go. Okay, now I want to go back and hit the back button and go back and show you a couple of other maps. This is the map I created for Nomad Fest when we went last year, and this is the route we took. As you can see, this is how we came back. And whoops, and then close that too quickly. Go back to Your Places, Maps. Okay. Here I was doing some genealogy research and used it to locate where I had my dad's military papers, and then located all the places where he had been during the, I think this was the end of World War II. I hit the back button, Arizona campgrounds. Here's one I have just on general camping that I've created. Let's see, here, this one. And this is where I might put down places that other people have recommended. So when you're watching a YouTuber, then they might recommend a spot, and I might click on it and then add it to the mix. Or they may recommend some place to go. Here's one called Boiling River Hot Springs. I've not been there, but somebody recommended it. I'm not sure why it's not letting me get in there. I know why. You have to open it in My Maps. Got to remember to open it in My Maps. Now I can do that. So now I can come over here, click on it, and I see that that was recommended by A Stream in Life. So that's kind of where I keep recommendations of other YouTubers and other people camping. Okay, so anyway, the best person to teach you how to do this is Courtney at A Stream in Life, and if you want to support them, then purchase their How to Plan an Epic Journey, and that might help you in planning your whatever journeys you take. Okay, that is all I have today that I can remember. I will be bringing back more as I compile kind of things that we've discovered or ideas for you, or at the very least, show you everything we have to get ready to go on our Alaska journey. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much for watching.